Ramblers, let's get rambling.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Dr. Nick.
There's a kitty. Some dumb guy here. And welcome to a very much belated episode 20 of Watching Things Dumbly. This is for the week of February 10th through the 16th. And my apologies for the delays of this particular week. I got a couple days of being fairly sick. The day that I was supposed to record this, although I had largely recovered from my sickness, I woke up that morning, had no voice, and I'm sure as you can detect, it's still pretty scratchy. And so it's Sunday now, the 24th, and I've endured a week of this, and trying to talk too much and force a voice through what I've been enduring, which is still a problem. Cause a little stress and tickles, which makes me dry cough like crazy. I don't know what caused it, no idea. And then on top of that, dealing with my stray kitty buddy, whom some of you may have seen on this channel featured in the past. He's had his own little medical crisis and such, which has been unpleasant for him and for me in dealing with it. He's had a couple trips to the vet. He's living in the outdoor catio and very unhappy because he's a wandering stray, and as wandering strays like to do, they definitely do not like being restricted to a small 8-foot square area, but trying to immobilize him as much as possible so that his injured leg can heal. Yeah, poor guy's had it a little bit rough, and it's with everything else. He even had the fortune of the last time I left the vet 3-4 days ago. I was on the road for a minute after leaving the vet with him, and car got T-boned by some careless driver who wasn't paying any attention. So, hey, sugar, let's get on with the watching, shall we? I picked this up not too long ago. I did a recent unboxing. I thought, hey, you know what, do a multi-week viewing or whatever in reverse order, which I got to see in the theater, starting in that reverse order and then going back and doing a rewatch on this one from 2010-ish. The Wolfman, Benicio del Toro, Anthony Hopkins, and Hugo Weaving and Emily Blunt. This movie, it's 2 hours long. A lot of people seem to be of the consensus that this movie is boring. It is well made, and it is boring. The effects work is pretty damn good. The drama is pretty decent on it. It's really hard to pinpoint why this movie is boring, but it is. It took me multiple sittings to get through it. I went in for a classic 1958 black and white 93 minutes. Clark Gable and Burt Lancaster. We have the submarine classic thriller Run Silent, Run Deep. No actual running is done in the making of this film. But this movie here is one that I had never seen prior to buying it, so this was a blind buy. And I realized I'd never seen Clark Gable before outside of Gone with the Wind. And, he's about 20 years older in this film. And I've been encountering a couple recently younger Burt Lancaster films, but this is very well made, and for the time, effects work was pretty solid, minus a couple shots of cables used to pull model torpedoes and model submarines, but overall the model work for the effects were pretty solid. That got me down a bit of a rabbit hole. So over the course of 2 days back to back, I pulled out my homemade collection of Crimson Tide and U571. Got my Here we go. Are we upside down? There we go. That's a little better. This is one of my homemade things. Obviously, these were both older Blu-ray releases because that was all that was available. You can tell by the scans of both back and front. This little deal here, this kind of thing here, this kind of thing here. Those were good old days of Blu-ray releases. I'm of a mind that Crimson Tide might have been partially inspired by Run Silent, Run Deep. There's a lot of reminiscent aspects of captain, first officer tensions and mutinies and taking over a ship and overriding orders for a perceived greater good from the eyes of the other commander. Not quite as dramatic in Run Silent, Run Deep as Crimson Tide, but a great dynamic overall. U-571 as Run Silent, Run Deep is a World War II submarine film. I love all three of these films. This one here, as much as I enjoy it, I'm bothered by the historical inaccuracy, in the sense that although credit is given in text at the end of the film, this being a story about a mission of U.S. submariners capturing, boarding a German U-boat to obtain German encoding machines and equipment. That's something that the British did several times during World War II. Again, it's credited in text in the film, but historically, I guess there's only one documented in that text incident of American Allied forces accomplishing that. I think it's 2 or 3 times preceding that it was a British operation. It's one thing where I've discussed why I don't like biopics and based on historical event movies. That's kind of why. I mean, if you're going to make this movie, why not make it from a British perspective and give a little bit more credit, even if it's not entirely historically accurate, if it's a non-fictional kind of thing and you make it turning into a fiction, okay. But at least give the proper credit in the sense of where it's due. Moving on, rant over. I just watched this for the first time. This was on my sickest day. And this movie is really well hyped, but I got it as a blind buy after watching the prequel, non-prequel that came out in the theater last year. This is The Strangers. This is the Scream Factory release on Blu-ray. Collector's Edition, 10th anniversary. I remember when I watched Strangers Chapter 1 last year. By the title, I was of the anticipation that it was a prequel film. After having watched this, it's clearly not. This is the origins of everything. So why Chapter 1 is Chapter 1, although its sequel Chapter 2 is coming out later this year as a direct follow-up. And then there's a sequel to this one, which I've never seen, but is generally poorly regarded. Point being, as I was watching Chapter 1 and being incredibly disappointed by it, based on all the absolute blatant stupidity of not only characters, but events. And then learning how highly regarded this one is, I went ahead and got it as a palate cleanser, only to find out that this one is just as bad. I'm sorry, to all you people who love this movie, this is horrific. This is as bad as Chapter 1, if not more so. It's the same stupid issues. You get a man who, after driving his car into a driveway, parking, going into the house, after 4 o'clock in the morning, in the dead silence of early morning, in the house where it is also completely dead silent, are killers here, bash in his car, bust in all his windows, pop all his tires, parked right outside the house, and you don't hear a thing. And he doesn't know it till he goes back outside to retrieve his phone that he left in his car. Liv Tyler is one of the stars in this movie. I've never seen her more annoying. She doesn't shut up. She whispers pretty much throughout the entire movie, whether it's justified or not. She constantly asks stupid questions. There's a point in the movie where she falls and injures an ankle. And for the next several minutes, she's hobbling around, crawling around on the floor. After several minutes of crawling around on all fours, she gets up, and using walls and objects around her, she's limping severely to get around, supporting her weight on whatever's around her. And you're like, okay, fine. But then out of nowhere, she just begins walking normally. I mean, no limp at all. Kitty cameo, it's okay, sugar. Is Buddy making you nervous? Huh? It's okay. So yeah, she gets up, she just starts walking around. No limp, no hobble, no anything. Cruising around this house. And then consequently, out of nowhere, she starts limping severely all over again. And it's like, wait, what just happened here? Safe to say, I hate this movie as much as I do Chapter 1. Conceptually, it's fine. Conceptually, it's intriguing. But it is so much feeling like exactly like Chapter 1. Obviously, I saw them out of order, but still, it's just like they're so much a clone of each other in plot, tone, storyline, stupidity, that they might as well be the same freaking movie. So, no bueno, no happy. Next up, Blind Buy, recent purchase. I missed this one in the theater. Probably the most bizarre film I've ever seen in my life. Probably the most intense body horror I've ever seen in my life. You may know of this one. The Substance. Starring Demi Moore, Margaret Qualley, and Dennis Quaid. I don't want to break down the plot of this movie. I went into this one essentially blind. I think I'm glad that I did, not knowing what to expect. Probably added a lot to, God, I don't know if I want to call it my enjoyment of the movie, because I don't know if someone can actually really enjoy this. It's sick and it's twisted, and you know, you're watching, or I'm watching this movie throughout, and you just, certain characters, you want to take them by the neck and wring some sense. Stop it. Wake up. Snap out of this stupidity. Holy crap. But aside from the ending being intensely over the top, I mean, like way over the top, I mean, respect for this film's unique premise, and its bravery in trying something, just something I've never heard of ever before, and wow. On a lighter note, something I'd seen when it was relatively new, or looking back to 1996, a movie that subverted expectations. This is Executive Decision, starring Kurt Russell, also starring Halle Berry, and briefly Steven Seagal. You've also got John Leguizamo and Oliver Platt in this film. Jerry Goldsmith providing the music, which was very obvious listening to it. Just one of the good quality, above average airline heist takeover films. Good stuff. Like that. It's weekly Frank Capra time. We're in 1932. This I believe to be Barbara Stanwyck's fourth Frank Capra film, at least in this Columbia collection. This one comes from one of the few 2-packs. It's Forbidden. Obviously still in the black and white phase here. Barbara Stanwyck looking lovely, as she often does. This is a very sad, very depressing tale. I'm sorry to report. Not that it's a bad movie at all, but two people falling in love and life circumstances preventing them from fully acting on that. So they opt to live a life of secrecy, which in any real sense becomes a life of loneliness. And in attempts to keep secrets, a lot is lost and very little is gained, and you get two people, for all intents and purposes, who live decades of their lives just really depressed and unfulfilled. And it's kind of a heart-wrenching story. Continuing on, season 5 of Seinfeld. Not a whole lot watched in this particular week, maybe an episode or two, so not a whole lot of progress, but we're still moving that train along. But where the train has now entered the station and disembarked. Star Trek Enterprise, complete series. Season 4 complete. Even the dreadful last episode, which doesn't make any sense at all. Yeah, I used my sick days and finished that off so we can get that finally out of the rotation. Last but not least, my one theatrical viewing for that week, or this week in question. I got a solo viewing, which is the only reason why I really went, because it was the first day I was really starting to get sick and didn't want to be in a position where I could get others sick. This was the last day or two of this theatrical run, if I'm not mistaken. This is one of them days. What do I call this? Just a zany ghetto comedy, I guess, for lack of better description. Some really over the top, humorous, a lot of bonkers sequences in this film, but a touching, kind of heartfelt story. Just basically two women, two roommates and friends trying to track down rent money on the last day before rent's due to avoid eviction from their apartment, because one of the ladies unfortunately entrusted her deadbeat live-in boyfriend with the rent money the day it was due, and instead of giving it to the landlord, he went and spent it. So these two gals have got like 9 hours or something to frantically roam the city in search of enough money to get by for the month. Meanwhile, the other one that doesn't have the deadbeat boyfriend is in a position where she's got a really huge job interview lined up for later in the day. She's just gotten off of work, like a graveyard shift. She gets off work at 7 o'clock in the morning. Rent's due. She needs to go to bed. She's got an afternoon interview for a job promotion. And where's the rent money? Hilarity ensues. Good times. A little bit late, but I'll probably end up doing a review on it and go into further detail. I'm hoping to get to the theater again for another movie that just came out. However, kiddie stuff has been taking priority, and free time has been at a premium lately. So that's that. This one's long. Hopefully I can edit down to something a little shorter, more digestible. I apologize. I had a lot to catch up on. So thank you all for watching, and stay tuned. Episode 21 will be lurking right around the corner, considering this one was a week late. So thank you again for joining me. You all take care, and bye-bye. What did you watch? What have you watched? fill the box full of words.